Hello everyone, today we will be discussing the problem decode ways. This is the Leetcode problem number 91 and this problem discusses about the two important areas, that is string and dynamic programming. So let's quickly go and discuss the problem statement first. So basically in this problem we are given with a string s which only contains the integer values. Now we are also told that the alphabets are encoded as integer. Now these alphabets are uppercase alphabet. So A is encoded as 1, B is encoded as 2, so on. So Z is encoded as 26. Now we have to tell the number of ways to decode this string S. So for example, this string 226 can be decoded into multiple strings. So let's see how we can decode it into multiple ways. So the first integer 2 correspond to B. Again we are seeing 2. This is also corresponds to B, right? Then we have 6 correspond to F. So this is our first decoded string. This is the first decoded string. There could also be another way possible. So for example, instead of considering 2, we could consider 22. So 22 correspond to the alphabet V, and then 6 is V, F. So this is also possible. Then there is one more way. So first, let's say we are also only considering the integer 2 that correspond to B, right? Then we can consider these integers as together, that is 26 correspond to Z, right? So basically this string 226 can be expressed into 3 decoded string, into these 3 decoded string. So our answer will be 3. Okay. Now before jumping to the solution, let's first understand 2-3 boundary cases. So there might be 0 present in our string. So let's say 026 is the given string. Now in this string 0 does not correspond to any alphabets, right? It does not correspond to any alphabets. Now we cannot consider also 02. 02 does not correspond to B. Why? Because 02 is not equal to 2. Okay, so if there is any string with leading 0, that means we cannot decode that string. In that case our answer will be 0. So let's say the input is 2610. So initially we will be pointing at this first index, that is 2. Now when you are at this 0th index, you have two options. Either you could choose 2 that correspond to letter B, or you could choose 26 that corresponds to letter Z. So first we will be choosing 2. Now when you choose 2, you will be incrementing the pointer by 1. So now you are pointing at 6. Okay, now 6 is a valid alphabet. 6 correspond to letter F. Now we have the other option of 61. Is 61 correspond to any alphabet? No, 61 is not a valid option. So we cannot, so at index 1 we only have this one option, that we could choose F. So again we will increment the pointer. Now we will be pointing at index 2. Now in this index 2, again we have two options. Either we could choose one that corresponds to letter A, or either we could choose the integer 10. 10 correspond to J. Let's say we choose A. Now again we move to again we increment the pointer by 1. Now we are at index 3. Now when you are at index 3, you are left with the integer 0. Does integer 0 correspond to any character? No, it does not correspond to any alphabet. So this is not a valid decoding of the given string. So we will move back to 2. Now we could choose J. J is a valid option. So BFJ. So BFJ is a valid alphabet of this given integer string. Now let's again go back to 1. Now when you are at 1, we only had the one option, so we cannot explore any other way. So again we will move to B, the zeroth index. Now when you are at the zeroth index, again you have the option of selecting Z, right? So now in this scenario we will be choosing 26. So our next pointer will be the index 2. We have to increment the index by 2 places. Now we will be pointing at index 1. Again we have this option of selecting A or J. Now if you again choose if you choose A, again you will be moving to 3, and 3 is pointing to 0, so this is not a valid option. So we have to return back again to 2. Now ZZ, this is also a valid string, so ZZ is also a valid option. Now again we will return back. There are only two ways of decode this string, that is BFJ and ZZ. Okay, so this is our approach. So one more thing that you could have noticed here is that this node and this node, we are iterating it again and again. So that means we are having overlapping sub problems. So for it we could definitely use the dynamic programming. I hope you guys have understood this approach. Let's quickly jump to the coding section. So let's discuss the solution here. So first we are converting this string into an array of integer. Then we are defining a dictionary called dp. Then this is the function called number of ways. This is the function which is this is the recursive function that we have seen earlier. If we're using this recursive function, we calculate the number of ways we could decode the current string. Okay, this function takes index as input. So first we check whether we have already calculated the result or not. If we have calculated the result, then we are returning with that result. So this is for avoiding the recomputation. This will basically help us in reducing the time complexity. Then we check whether this index is greater than or equal to the current string length. If it is greater than or equal to the current string length, that means we have reached the end of a valid decoded string. In that case, we are returning 1. If that is not the case, then we are taking the current integer. If the current integer is equal to 0, in that case we are simply returning with result equal to 0. If the current integer is not equal to 0, in that case we are checking whether this particular index is the last index, is not equal to last index. Why? Because if we are at the last index, that means we cannot have the next integer. Now if let's say our index is not the last index, in that case we calculate the next integer. Next integer is calculated as the current integer into 10 plus the next integer. Now we check whether the next integer that we have calculated is within the range of 10 to 26, because only those numbers are valid to alphabets. If let's say our next number is 28, now 28 does not correspond to any alphabet, so that is not valid. If it is a valid alphabet, if the next integer is a valid alphabet, in that case we can calculate the result by incrementing the pointer by 1 and incrementing the pointer by 2. If the next integer that we calculated is not a valid alphabet, in that case we are simply incrementing the pointer by 1. After this, whatever result we get, we store it inside the dp dictionary, and then we return with the result. So this is our approach in solving the decoding ways. Hope you guys have understood this approach. If you have any doubt, you can raise your query in the comment section. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and we will meet at the next video.